The great hippie happening tomorrow on the Oprah Winfrey Show.
This is Channel 7 Eyewitness News with Bill Beutel and Kaity Tong, Corey McFerrin with sports, Stormfield with the weather, and the Eyewitness News team. Now, Eyewitness News.
A night of outrage turns into a night of confrontation. Demonstrators clash with police on the ramp to the Brooklyn Bridge. There are injuries and arrests as those protesting a racial killing in Brooklyn are not allowed to cross into Manhattan. Good evening, everybody. I'm Roz Abrams with John Marler. Kaity Tong and Bill Beutel are on vacation. Just hours after the surrender of the prime suspect in the shooting of Yusef Hawkins, outrage over that racial killing explodes during a protest march in Brooklyn. At one point, thousands of demonstrators overran barricades. Police had to close traffic to the Brooklyn Bridge. Rocks and bottles were thrown. There were injuries and arrests. N.J. Burkett is live in Brooklyn with details. N.J.
Well, Roz, as you can see behind me, traffic is moving again, and the streets of Brooklyn are beginning to return to normal at this hour. But today's day of outrage has left behind a night of injuries and arrests.
Fight back!
The day of outrage began as a core group of protesters shoved the TV crew out of their way as they marched into Grand Army Plaza at 4 p.m.
By any means necessary, as our mentor Malcolm X said, we shall get our point across.
Is your mentor Malcolm X or Martin Luther King?
My mentor and the people out here, their mentor is Malcolm X. We believe in an eye for an eye, and a tooth for a tooth, and a life for a life.
The protest was billed by organizers as a peaceful but forceful demonstration, and police say they came both prepared and worried about how peaceful or how forceful the demonstration would be. The protest leaders appeared more militant than moderate. The demonstrators were mostly members of the city's black community, but nearly every ethnic group in New York was represented. They chanted, "Yusef, fight back." Whose streets, leaders asked. Our streets, answered the demonstrators. By 6 o'clock, they left the park and took to the streets of Brooklyn by the thousands. As they made their way through downtown Brooklyn, hundreds of police officers took up positions across the river around City Hall. Hundreds of others formed a blue wall at the ramp to the Brooklyn Bridge. But the ranks of protesters had swelled to 8,000 strong. Encouraged by leaders to take the bridge, they pushed past the cops and up the Brooklyn Bridge. A total of 23 officers were injured and treated at area hospitals. Police arrested at least 4 demonstrators. For the next half hour, it was a tense standoff, as drivers on the Brooklyn-bound side of the bridge were held virtual prisoners in their own cars. Protesters declared that their point had been made after police agreed to allow a Harlem minister to accompany those arrested to central booking. How would you characterize the success of this?
Oh, I think it's fantastically successful. There's over 5,000 people out here, and I think that says a lot.
Speaking overall for the police department, the strategy was tonight?
To allow them to go to a certain point, which was, the entrance to the bridge, and not to go over the bridge. And at that point, there was a confrontation.
Now, the protest ended here at about 7:30, 3.5 hours after it began in the Grand Army Plaza. The group left the ramp of the Brooklyn Bridge and then headed back toward Grand Army Plaza and then dissipated there. Now, it is very important for you to keep in mind that there were 8,000 people, an estimated 8,000 people at this protest, and it is unclear exactly how many condoned the kind of violence that you saw here this day of outrage on tape tonight. It is unclear how many actually condoned that. We are live in Brooklyn. N.J. Burkett, Channel 7, Eyewitness News.
N.J., most of those injured in tonight's confrontation between the protesters and police were taken to Beekman Downtown Hospital in Lower Manhattan. We go there now to get more on the extent of the injuries. Tim Minton is live at the hospital. Tim?
Well, John, fortunately, the extent of the injuries is not great. A total of 23 people were taken to hospitals. 8 of them came here. There is only one officer at this hour who is still in the hospital. He is out on Long Island with chest pains. The rest of them had some broken arms. There were concussions. There were some head injuries. Now, the people who allegedly did this to the officers are in custody. At least 4 of them are in custody. And you're looking here at some tape as the officers came back across the Brooklyn Bridge. That was about 7 o'clock tonight in ambulances. But again, back to the nature of the custody situation. 4 people arrested. 2 of them are in custody at this point for assault, and 2 of them for disorderly conduct. Mayor Koch was here a while ago. He said that the officers who were injured were, and this is quoting the mayor now, like sitting ducks. We're live at the Beekman Downtown Hospital. Tim Minton, Channel 7, Eyewitness News.
And, Tim, we're going to go back live to Brooklyn now, where New York police are just about to hold a news conference, a late-night news conference, to detail charges against the man they say fired the fatal shots that led to tonight's protest. Joey Fama surrendered today. He's the man suspected of shooting and killing Yusuf Hawkins. His surrender came upstate when he walked into the Oneonta police station and said he was tired of running. Now he's back in Brooklyn, soon to be arraigned. Sarah Wallace joins us live with that story from the 69th Precinct. Sarah?
Well, John, as you may be able to see behind me, security is extremely tight here at the 69th Precinct in Canarsie. It has been that way ever since shortly before 2 o'clock this afternoon, when 18-year-old Joey Fama was brought into the precinct, a yellow raincoat covering his head. We expect him to be charged momentarily. In fact, the microphones are all set up, the crew's in place, waiting for Chief of Detectives Robert Colangelo to come out and brief reporters. Although we don't officially know what those charges will be, it is certainly extremely likely one of them will be murder. For several hours earlier this evening, witnesses to the shooting of 16-year-old Yusuf Hawkins were hustled in and out of the precinct, often with paper bags covering their heads. They were here for lineups to see if they could identify 18-year-old Joey Fama.